Good morning and welcome to Back to Basics. I'm Rico Burton and I am your host and volunteer with AARP Arizona. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families. That includes health and security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, AARP the Magazine and AARP Bulletin. In February, we celebrate Black History Month. Let's celebrate the everyday heroes, the ones whose stories often go untold, but whose impact is felt in every corner of our society. Let's acknowledge that working hard, showing up, and making a difference are legacies worth honoring every day. Throughout the month, we will also focus on the job market. As the demand for online, flexible, and remote work increases, more workers over 50 are interested in remaining or rejoining the workforce. However, ageist and age discrimination practices remain a significant barrier between them and jobs across industries. Experienced workers need to be educated about the factors that come into play for their career journeys and how they can equip themselves to overcome them, remain competitive, and achieve results. AARP is the wise friend and a fierce defender of older workers and has programs, offerings, and resources to help with. In an uncertain economy and rapidly changing job market, you can count on AARP to help you navigate your job search and career path and fight back against age bias. We are also fighting to strengthen age discrimination laws, increase protections, and help companies across the country foster age diverse workforces that value experience. Visit us at aarp.org/work for tips, tools, and resources to stay competitive in the job market. Again, we thank you for joining us here today. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat and we hope to get to them. Let us know where you're joining us from. Today, Coach Sherry Ann is going to be talking us about retirement and how we can get ready for it emotionally. Hey there, Coach.
Hi, Lady B. How are you?
I won't complain. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm good. Happy February. We're just rolling
Yes.
right into 2025.
Woo! Yes, indeed.
So, yes, we are talking about planning for retirement. And we're not necessarily going to be talking about the financial side. The financial health is usually top of mind for most people, but the emotional health is an afterthought. And so that's what we want to touch on today because they say that about 39 to 40% of Americans 65 or older that are currently working today previously had retired. And they're not returning to work due to money. They're returning to work because they miss the challenges, they miss the feeling of an accomplishment. And most importantly, they're missing companionship, and so it's really, really important that people prepare themselves for retirement and mentally and emotionally because you think that, like, I'm going to travel, and then they put all their eggs in one basket to travel, and that's really not necessarily always ideal. But then once you start doing that and that loses its newness, then you're like, okay, now what do I do? And a lot of people are not prepared for what comes mentally, and it's totally normal because most people, when they think about retirement, they're thinking financially. I've got to make sure that I have enough money. That's usually the biggest concern financially, is will I have enough? And what they're finding out now is the next biggest fear is losing their identity. Most people are their identity, their self-worth, their self-esteem is wrapped up in their career and how they provide. And so it's impactful when you walk away from that. And I've heard a saying multiple times, the two most dangerous days in someone's life is the day they're born and the day they retire. And when I first heard that, I thought, that's kind of odd. Like, why would it, be dangerous? But lots of studies have occurred about it. And when people, the Social Security Administration actually has done a study that it is people that retire before 62 have a higher mortality rate. That's right? It's like, why is that? And if you retire at 50, not at 55, they say at 55, which most people, when they hit their 50s, they're thinking, yes, I can, if they've done well financially, like they can retire, but you're 89% more likely to die in 10 years if you retire that early. So it's because they're not planning for the mental and emotional side of retirement. And we know, due to all the longevity studies that have been happening, that social connection is super important to stave off mental dementia and mental disorders. And so if you're not staying connected and finding a purpose, you are facing a higher chance of mortality if you retire too early, or if you're not preparing yourself for what that might look like.
That's that's absolutely wild. What are they saying some of the causes for death end up being?
It stems from depression.
Oh, wow.
And then when we all know that when you have depression, because if you don't have a purpose and a meaning, a critical to well-being is having a purpose. I mean, even when we've done, a lot of talk about blue zones, that's like one of the biggest things is make sure you have a purpose to have overall well-being. Because if you don't have an overall well-being, that will lead to depression. And then we also know that depression just has a cascading impact on our bodies. Things just don't function as well. Our blood pressure rises, like we have heart issues. So yeah, it stems from depression. So a lot of psychologists, oh, go ahead, hon.
One of our viewers here, Cara, is saying she wants to know how to retire early, preferably today. Are you sure? Based on what Coach just got done telling you, are you sure?
Well, yeah. And yes, please tune in with your questions, your comments and whatnot. Yeah. When I'm talking to people that are on the cusp of retiring, they're so excited and they are so anxious to get to that place because they don't want to have to get up and answer emails and do the grind and get to the office and do the daily grind. But what they don't understand is once they're away from that and that newness wears off and you get up and you have your cup of coffee in the morning and you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs, it's like, okay, what do I do? And so depression can slowly seep in if you're not thinking about what else you can do. And a lot of psychologists are suggesting that you retire gradually, and maybe go to part-time or move into the world of consulting so that you still can have a purpose. And I mean, that's where my dad is at right now is, he's in his late 70s, but he's of the nature where he loves to work, and he loves providing, and so but I'm like, Dad, you can't do it. Can't grind every day at this age. Like, I mean, you can, but it's, just find some peace a little bit. But so he's doing consulting and it's working out great for him because he can control it and he's still involved and still providing. But yeah, so think about if you're approaching retirement, think about doing it gradually, backing off part-time. If you're in a business, if you're a financial coach, because that's what the business I've moved into, I still do well-being and health and fitness coaching, but now I've introduced financial coaching under my umbrella. My mentor, his mentor, slowly, gradually quit. Like he kept handing over his clients, wouldn't take new clients, and he gradually phased himself out because if he would have just quit cold turkey, he would have gone crazy, I think. But he's just slowly phased himself out. And so it's really healthy because now he has more time to spend with his wife and he loves that in golf and everything. So he slowly kind of figured out a way to do it. Because at first he was like, what? I don't think I can retire. It's like, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, Cara's also asking, do you have suggestions for solo agers or elder orphans who will be doing this alone?
Meaning I want to make sure I understand your question, Car. Does this mean that you don't have a partner is that what that means? Elder orphans?
I would think.
So yeah, I just want to be clear on making sure I understand the question of doing this alone, like not having a partner. Cause that's the other caveat. And I'll come back to Car's question is if you have a partner and you're retiring, your partner's still working, that changes the whole dynamics of your home. If you've come home, you leave in the morning, goodbye, kiss you, bye, have a great day. You come home in the evening, you're like, oh, great, how was your day? But now one's retired and one's not. That changes the dynamics a little bit, and you kind of have to embrace that and lean into it and know how to have a different style of conversation. But if you're doing this alone, meaning not having a partner, make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that you really care about and that care about you, that you can have conversations with still. And we're going to get into how to find that inner purpose for you. I have 3 questions for you to ask yourself, because if you have a purpose, then you're going to be totally fine, because your purpose is going to have you being engaged. Okay. I see her. Okay, yes. So folks that do not have partners or children. So yes, so it's important to have that purpose and be engaged and create a tribe for yourself of people that you're looking out for them and they're looking out for you. Especially if you don't have children, because as we age, I have a dear friend that's dealing with that in their family. The sisters are taking care of each other. But once one passes, like, then what is that one going to do? Because neither one of them had children. And so it's a matter of finding people in a tribe. And there's nurses out there, elderly care nurses, and hospice care. Even before you have to get to hospice, there's nurses that will come in and help you take care of your daily needs and spend some time with you and help transport you if you need transportation to be connected with people that you want to be connected with. But yeah, it's when you're facing retirement, I like using the acronym FIND, and it's financial independence in a new direction. So, and because you still need to stay financially independent, but you're headed in a new direction because you're not tied to your career anymore. And it's really just about finding that fulfillment. And there's ways to do that. Like I said, we'll do the questions, but it could be volunteering. It could be if you are a grandparent, you can be focused on multi-generational home and really being present for your grandchildren. It could be, like I said, doing consulting. Or if you've always had a dream about doing something totally different in your career, you could dive into doing freelance work. Maybe you were in corporate America, but you always had a passion for art. You could dive into being a freelance artist. And there's so many things. You just have to open up your mind and not be so tunnel vision and thinking that you're stuck in this one zone. And volunteering. I think I already said volunteering, but volunteering is a huge way to stay connected and have a new direction that you want to head into. So let's dive into these 3 questions, and maybe this will help you, Car, figure out which direction you would like to go, because it's challenging when we go from being younger to older, because we are super invincible when we're young, and then all of a sudden we become vulnerable. So going from invincible to vulnerable is really, really challenging when you're accepting, and embracing the fact that you're not young anymore. And simply acknowledging that is super, super helpful. So, and to be candid, we're all vulnerable, but it's just the young tend to think that they're invincible. And as we get older, we realize we're not as invincible as we think we are. But so 3 questions to unlock your inner purpose. So, and I always like saying that growth can happen from cradle to grave. You can always be growing and opening up your brain to new ideas and new ways of thinking. And you have to accept that you want to grow and lean into that. All right. So how do you find out how you want to help? Like, if there's always people that want help. So it's, how do you want to be useful and how do you want to help? What are your gifts? What are your gifts and what are your talents? What do you love to do that can contribute to other people? And sometimes that's really hard to answer yourself. So answer your closest people around you. Ask them, say, hey, I have a question for you. Like, what do you think my best gifts are? What do you think, how I can contribute to others? What would be the best thing that you could? And I think it's wonderful when you ask other people. Have you ever done that?
Oh, yeah. And there are also assessments that are out there that can help you along the way with that can help you find what areas you best thrive in. And there's sometimes they can do it for career, other times for retirement or being alone. What are your gifts? There are people in varying churches that do what are your spiritual gifts. So there's, you can take a look at whichever area that you have. I also like to tell people to take a piece of paper and just write down things you like to do and then things you are really good at.
Mhm.
And then see where the two kind of connect and collide. And you may end up with a list there too. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. And it's fun to actually sit and think about that. I think we as a society get so conditioned to just getting up and doing the same thing over and over again, and we lose connection with ourselves and what we are passionate about because we're so like we got to do what we got to do to survive, but are we thriving also? It's surviving is a natural thing, like we have to survive. But while you're surviving, are you taking time to thrive? And when you head into retirement, it's a great time because if you're financially set, it's a wonderful time to lean into wanting to thrive in life and finish out your years here on the planet like thriving and giving back and enjoying those years.
But if you're not financially set, therein lies another concern. And you're talking about an emotional thing. Some people are out here looking for what they can do because they have to. And there's that another emotional part of things. You had mentioned about, recognizing that we get older. Being seasoned is not a bad thing. And I think we need to look at those things that we've learned over our lifespan and where, like you say, where we have grown and what has been our greatest, I don't know, some of the greatest rewards that we have had and the greatest things that we have given along the way. So kind of like your legacy. If
Mhm.
somebody were to say something nice about you, what would it be? And that may give people a clue too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next question that you can ask yourself that will help steer you to figure out your inner purpose is find out who you want to help. What pain or injustices or unhappiness have you witnessed that you just can't live with? And that might help drive you. And it might not be people, it might be animals. You might really have a passion and a heart for the humane society to make sure animals are treated humanely because there's a lot that are not. But it could be children, making sure that the true essence of no child left behind, making sure that children are well loved and well cared for and given the opportunity to thrive in their young lives. So think about what pain and injustices you see in life that irk you, and you want to go help and improve that situation. That might be the opportunity for you to go use your best gifts to help. Because if it's bothering you, you probably have a gift to help push it in a different direction. The third question is find out what energizes you. And in that same process, figure out what also drains you because there are energy vampires out there. And so if I'm around something, a situation, or people that energizes me, I'm very acutely aware of I'm where I'm supposed to be. But if I'm in a situation where I feel exhausted when I'm done, I'm like, yeah, it's not where I'm supposed to be. So it's not enough to know that the passion or the problem, you need to know how to solve it. And so it's, what are you willing to sacrifice for to fulfill for your purpose? But it will energize you when it clicks.
And you know what? I agree. That's all I'll say. I agree. I'll leave it there. Carr also mentions about incorporating the 6 pillars. There's more than one set of 6 pillars. I wonder which one you're talking about. There's 6 pillars of character. There's a lot of different ones. Which ones do you mean, Carr?
Yeah. It's um yeah, there's a lot of different ones there to address. But it's really just finding out where your passion lies and really going in that direction because there's a lot of help that needs to be out there. And like once again, it's really defining what you want your purpose to be as you phase out of work. And for a lot of people, Oh, so for mental health while we age. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's um there is an article, and I'll have our producer put it up, that AARP actually did. I think it was 2 years ago, and it is about your emotional well-being plan and 6 ways to go about making sure you have it. And it is critical because I think that too many people, like I said before, are so conditioned to be focusing on the financial aspect of things. And if you're not, I will encourage you to get in touch with a financial coach. I like to call them financial coaches because they're guiding you, but there's also they're reference, investors, different people will call them different things. CPAs people use, but whoever you choose to use as a financial coach, make sure you're sitting down with them to take full advantage of. If you have an IRA, or if you're at work and you're in a corporate world, you most likely have a 401k. There's other qualified retirement accounts. And if you're not in corporate America, or you are like a 1099 employee, you're an independent contractor, and if you're not putting money away, you want to make sure that you are, so that when you do get retirement, you have something to live off of. There's all different kinds of avenues and venues to do that. There's annuities, there's life insurance. So sit down with your financial coach and make sure that you have a plan in place if you haven't already done that. So I want to be careful and make sure that I'm just blowing past the financial side of retirement, because we are here to talk about the emotional mental side of it. But just a little piece is, make sure that you are sitting down with someone that can advise you appropriately, because you will have future medical costs. There are retirement expenses, and so have somebody sit down with you and calculate your retirement income so you know what you're dealing with. But once you have that figured out, then you got to make sure you figure out your mental side and your emotional side, and you have a team or a tribe of people around you to help support you in that. Because so many people just get to retirement and they're super excited for the first like 3 to 6 months. Then all of a sudden they're like, what do I do?
Well, you're mentioning helping others. What about taking some time in here to have a plan to help yourself? Just in terms of exercising, or taking on a hobby, or something like that's going to increase and give you some pleasure and some peace for yourself when you haven't had the time to do anything else. I went on a trip this weekend. It was just a 1 day thing, and I had so much fun. And it was the first time in a few years, I will say, that I've done something just for me. And it dawned on me. I said, when's the last time I really just had some fun for me? And oh my word, it was so refreshing and so wonderful. And I thought, I need to do this more often.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
helping everybody else. What am I doing for myself?
I'm so glad that you said that. It is important, and we should be doing that on a regular basis, not just wait till retirement. Not do the grind until you get to retirement and be like, okay, I got time for myself. We should be doing that on a consistent basis, like at least once a month. Take a day where it's all about you. And if you want to bring people along with that, great. But it's about your passions, your desires. Fill your cup, because if you can't fill your cup first, you can't really count on anyone else filling it. You got to fill it first. It has to come from within. But yeah, that's why when people do retire, they're so excited about spending time on themselves for the first few months, and then that newness kind of wears off. They're like, okay, well, now I did that. Now what do I do? But yeah, it's a great opportunity to focus on your own health, because you probably let it slide a little bit because you were working so hard. But that's why it's important to kind of gradually think about retirement, like go to part-time, start consulting, and kind of phase yourself so that you can incorporate the things that you want to do for yourself, whether it be golfing, or going on regular hikes, or whatever your passion is, going to a dance class, or going to a retreat, a yoga or a silent retreat, something like that. So investigate. It's a great opportunity to investigate new hobbies and rediscover old ones that you once did. And it's fun because my mom was sharing with me, like when she was younger, how she loved to roller skate. I'm like, what? I did not know this. I was like, I'm a little worried about putting you on roller skates now, but let's figure out what we can do. Like, But it's,
It's
yeah,
great.
rediscover old, things that you used to really love, and, and derive where you want your self-esteem to come from. And so it could easily come from discovering new things and constantly growing and expanding your horizons, because you can grow from cradle to grave.
Absolutely. Write that book that's always been inside of you. Write your memoir. There's so many things you can do. Again, looking over your life to take a good stock of all the wonderful things you've done in your life. And sometimes the wonderful things you've done means you bypass some things that you might have wanted to do, but now you look at it and you say to yourself, self, I'm glad I didn't do that, right? That may have changed my path in a completely different way. And we can honor those things and celebrate those things. I think
Yes.
that is absolutely wonderful.
I mean, and if you were not a grandparent, there's other children out there that you can be a volunteer and go service and sit down with kids and be a resource. I'm thankful for my relationship with my parents and the relationship that they have with my kids. My kids reach out to them independent of me. And it was so great. The last time we were together, one of my kids asked my dad, um, about questions about traveling, like, where's the best place you've ever been? Like, and it's fun because listening to them share their stories and impact, the next generation down, two generations down, is so wonderful. And so if you are a grandparent, oh my goodness, you have opportunity, like, right at your fingertips, that you can impact some amazing human beings. And like I said, if you're not a grandparent, oh my goodness, you can volunteer. Like, another woman that made a massive impact on my youngest child was the um, handwriting teacher at the elementary school. She taught cursive, and because they don't teach cursive anymore, which is sad. But he's 16 now, so then he was like 8. But she was 80 years old, and she volunteered and she taught cursive. It was beautiful, and she was the cutest thing ever. So I
You
mean,
know,
there's
they're
opportunity.
bringing that back.
I hope so.
They're bringing back cursive. Yeah, because a lot of kids couldn't even read it. They didn't. It was very interesting, some of the studies that were done. But yeah,
Yes.
they're bringing it back.
Yeah,
It's a
so
good
there's
thing.
opportunity everywhere. There really is. You just have to be willing to dig into yourself and figure out what is going to bring you joy and passion.
And you can take your time and do it. It doesn't have to be an overnight kind of thing. We don't have to get in crisis because of it. If you've lived your life to this point and enjoyed, some things about it, take the time to just, to reflect and maybe even reframe where you are and where you want to go. You don't have to reinvent yourself necessarily, just kind of reframe it so that the place that you're going or the way that you're going to do things can be done differently. Take a cooking class or teach somebody else how to cook, make cookies, and there's a lot of little things that we can do, puzzles, and getting on, well, taking care of places, taking care of some of the resources or enjoying some of them that AARP offers, whether it be belly dancing or they have game night, the trivia nights and things. There's so many things that are available to you that you can try and see if you enjoy them. And many of them don't cost anything at
Right.
all except your time.
Right. Well, and the last thing I want to say too before we close is, if you find yourself retired and you are facing, you all of a sudden you just wake up and you have no purpose and you're feeling depressed and you're like, what am I doing with my day? Like, what should I, reach out, tell your partner, tell your friend, tell your doctor, tell someone. Don't sit there by yourself and drive isolation. If you find that you're just like, ugh, I don't have work anymore, now what do I do? Like, reach out, reach out and ask someone.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you. As usual, you have given us wonderful information that we can kind of digest here and explore a little later on. And just, it makes you want to think about some things because there is another side to retiring, that emotional part. And you're right. There's so many people that say, once I retired, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. They're just so happy to be able to get there because that is an accomplishment too. And like
Yeah.
you say, that's what we focus on, that accomplishment. Well, we need to prepare some other accomplishments in our lives, how we can give back to others, how we can be good to ourselves. Yes. All right. Well, I look forward to being with you all next time, next month here, the second Tuesday on Back to Basics. Make sure you take a look at some of the previous episodes and enjoy them. We look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, you take care. God bless.